Why did we need to let Cody feel special and let him do the voiceover in the beginning? It's obvious he's reading a script. I'm sorry. So, should I just, like, stare at my notes the entire time and not allow myself to do anything off the cuff? Just checking. I wondered if that was appropriate. Hi. I'm Cozy, if you're new here. I like to snark on Sister Wives here on YouTube. This is my co-host, Freckles. She is staring at the wall for I don't know what reason. I do like to remind you at the beginning that these videos are for entertainment purposes only. It is just my opinions about public figures putting their lives on television for all of us to watch. These are not facts and should not be taken as such. Cool? Cool. Okay, so let's jump into it because there's a lot of clips here and I'm probably going to end up having to split this into two because I had a lot of thoughts about this. So we're starting off with the commitment ceremony. And if you'll remember, Robin threw a temper tantrum at the end of the first episode and said, I can't watch this, and like threw the iPad and unplugged herself. It was a whole thing. It was kind of reminiscent of the time that Christine unplugged herself on the couch and tried to walk off. And Cody was like, you don't have to do this, except that Robin was having a tantrum. Either way. So she stomped off and slams the door. Like, slams the door. Oh my gosh. So we are starting off the episode really, really well. That's how that works. So no one else is this upset about this commitment ceremony. In the clip, the people they invited, the one lady, she's literally there and she's like, I mean, she's staring into space because it's not, no one cares, guys. This was important to you, but it literally wasn't important to anyone else. So they asked if it was a good day, and Mary's like, I'm angry. I'm mad that we weren't able to do this. I'm mad that we failed. And Janelle's like, hey, we brought Nancy in to help us write this mission statement, and I was inspired by it. And Cody's like, there wasn't enough loyalty in the family, because that's his favorite word. And Mary's like, what is it they say? Your mission, should you choose to accept it? We didn't accept it, and it's heartbreaking. And I believe her. She actually looks really upset. Her eyes are pretty red. She looks really upset. She is not as laughing, happy, bubbly as we saw in the talk back, but also she doesn't have Jen there to help. So Robin comes back and still refuses to watch it. She's like, it's too hard to watch in my present reality. But the next clip is Robin explaining how polygamy is a girl party. And I don't know exactly what she means. I think she just means like there's a lot of girls here, but I've never had a party and just called it a girl party, so Janelle's like, the trips away were super fun. And Mary's like, we could loosen up a lot more when Cody wasn't around. The dynamic was completely different. And Christine agrees that she loved those times it was just the four women. She's like, it's a lot easier to be a sister wife than it is to be a wife. And I thought she was super bad at being a sister wife, right? No? Okay. So Robin's like, these were good times, but now I question if they were real. Robs, come on. Mary's like, we're not close now, and I don't want to think that those times weren't real. I'm open to healing these relationships, but I'm not holding my breath about it. And Mary's like, listen, I trust Janelle, and I'm probably not going to have a relationship with Mary and Robin. So then we go straight to the legal divorce. And as a reminder, if you have not seen this yet, or you haven't done a watch back on your own at any point, when Mary says she's going to do the legal divorce, Cody literally says, all I can say is thanks, and then just sits there. Robin stands up sobbing and hugs her. Mary's trying to tell everybody about how she knows that Dayton and Brianna are part of the family. There's no question about it. And so Robin explains the dynamic again about her kids wanting to be adopted by Cody, Cody wanting to adopt them. She's like, Mary offered up the legal marriage, and she has no emotion about it. None at all. She eyes scan the ceiling as she's talking, and she's completely deadpan. Her expression is dark. I paused even to make a note. Her eyes are dark and sunken in. Her mouth is so drawn. It almost looks as though someone has forgotten their dentures. And I don't mean that to be rude. I mean, she is just, she's defeated. She looks miserable. And I'm not even willing to feel happy about it. I don't really like her, and I'm not really to feel happy about it. Because I think Robin actually has gotten her comeuppance. Cody clearly hasn't, but I think Robin really is being sincere when she says this is hard on her. I think part of that is having to live with Cody. I don't know that for sure, but that's just the feeling I get in my heart when I look at her. So Mary goes on to share that it was really, really hard for her. And when past Cody is talking to Janelle on the couch, specifically about, hey, didn't Robin and Mary talk to you about this divorce? She calls him out. He says, as long as Robin and Mary don't behave any differently. And she's like, no, as long as you don't behave any differently. The cracks were already starting to show. The women were already starting to see that something was completely different here. And she calls him out and says, you need to not behave differently with a legal marriage. So Cody's here placing the blame at the feet of two women when he's the problem. So I'm watching these clips back, and I am actually finding a small bone of sympathy for Robin. Not like a femur or anything, but like a pinky toe. Because I see how much more clearly the favoritism of Cody, making it obvious that she was the favorite, was obvious to these other women. And I see how that has led us down a path of blaming Robin, and sometimes I think back then we forgot to blame Cody. Janelle says that it's always been Mary having this legal marriage, and because that legal marriage holds sway, especially over division of assets should something happen, she knew she could always trust Mary to take care of everything. And it wasn't that she didn't think that Robin was trustworthy. She knew Mary would be fair, and it wasn't necessarily that Robin wouldn't. It was just she hadn't known Robin nearly as long as she had known Mary. And Robin's like, Janelle's expressing fear, concerns, paranoia, which was an interesting choice, but she does concede that it was a fair question. So I give her props for that. But Mary says the moment she signed those divorce papers was so painful, and she didn't want to do it. That's probably why the fandom has thought for years it wasn't your idea, Mary. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I can't say for sure. I don't think. It is my personal opinion that it was not her original idea. I think it was planted there for her, but I don't necessarily think it was her original idea. So Robin's like, this meant a lot to me and my kids. And Mary's like, I would do it again for the children. This wasn't about me. This wasn't about Robin. This was about the kids. And she makes that clear. And she has made that clear from the word go, that this was always about the children. But then Cody comes in and starts just yelling, all your non-legitimate marriages are legitimate here. And I'm like, you mean not legal? Because if they're not legitimate... They're not legitimate in a legal sense, but I thought they were legitimate to you, which I guess is what he's saying, but it doesn't sound great. So he's like, he thinks it was a power trip for Mary to be in the legal position. And when she wasn't, weird things started happening. Like, he claims that she was, well, he doesn't claim, she was catfished, and she was talking about leaving the family, but he does claim that she would disappear for days or weeks on end. Cody, honey, this is about the time that Mary was very deeply involved in at least one MLM. Was she gone because she was doing shows, she was doing work events, she was doing all of those things for that MLM? Or would you not even know because you weren't involved? I mean, that's a legitimate question. I also think, because at that time she was also trying to get the B&B, she probably was gone for that too. Just throwing that out there. He's like, none of this should have happened over a paperwork shuffle. Okay. He's like, she had, and I quote, some kind of deep connection to the legal marriage. Yes, Cody. It's called commitment and love. It is what most monogamists feel when we choose to get married to somebody, and we have a very deep connection to that partner. Because we're only doing it once. Not 4 times and keeping everybody around. Like, that's not how that works. Good Lord, he's so obtuse, I don't, But you know what? Thank you, TLC, for at least addressing this, because we've been talking about it for years. Then, our next clip is the Sedona retreat. And Christine's like, oh, ew, this is when I knew our marriage was really broken. And it's interesting to note, the producers straight up ask her, do you want to watch it? And even though she says, ew, she goes, yeah, fairly cheerfully, and picks up the iPad and starts watching. Very different reaction, because we've seen a negative reaction from Robin. We are going to still see a negative reaction from Cody yet. But they show the body sculpting with the how close do you feel to Cody situation. And this is when Cody refuses to be in the middle. And Christine's like, when he refused, I was so frustrated because you chose plural marriage. How can you be so lazy? And maybe that doesn't make sense necessarily at first. And then Cody's arguing that he wanted the 5 adults to work together, not with him as the hub with a bunch of spokes poking out of him. But if you'll recall, his mother and Janelle's mother referred to polygamy as a wheel. And when a new wife comes in, you add a new spoke to the wheel. And by adding that spoke, you're supposed to strengthen the wheel. Yes, everything has to shift, but the more spokes the wheel has, the stronger the wheel is. Ergo, Wynn would have been the wheel to his 3 sister wives. Yes, 3, if you didn't know. Cody actually did have another stepmom, however you want to look at it, who elected not to appear on the show, which is fine. So I'm not going to go into personal details. I'm just saying that is a thing. But he's like, he said, I bet on that dream so hard that we would be a team and work together that it broke my heart when it wasn't like that. And he goes on to say that it didn't matter about being in love because that wasn't the focus of our relationships. He's like, the focus was love, but not being in love. And he's like, when I speak of love versus being in love, it can be the same thing. But then you have people who are just easy to love. It just flows. Which would be fine, except for the fact that not that long ago, he told Mary if she wanted to be loved, that she needed to be lovable. And that still gets under my skin. That was not okay. So Janelle agrees with Christine that Cody should have been in the center because then he would have been equidistant to each woman. There wouldn't have been any one person that he was standing closer to or further from. And so if you watch, it's interesting. It's interesting. So watch when they're standing there. Robin and Janelle are the 2 closest to him, with Mary on the opposite side of Robin and Christine the furthest away. And they're showing a dynamic that I think they were unintentionally showing us that would continue to persist until at least season 16, where Mary constantly had Robin in between as her go-between, where Christine was consistently held at arm's length. And Janelle and Cody seemed to have a decent relationship all the way up until things really fell apart for her children and Cody. And so I remember thinking back, seeing that episode, I can remember feeling like, wow, isn't it weird that Mary would consistently position herself with Robin in between? Because at that time, we really didn't know that Robin was solely speaking Cody for everyone. And I even remember thinking when he originally said, your connection can't go through me. I felt like he really was trying to ensure that they would remain a family if something happened to him. But watching it back, I can see how telling this exercise was and why the women hated it so much. And part of me really wonders if Cody wouldn't have been just as happy to shove Robin into the center and tell them that their access to him needed to run through her. Because we have kind of seen that dynamic play out where we've heard that Robin has tried to be essentially the intercessor for everyone going to Cody. And so much as I wish Cody would watch these clips and self-reflect, I wish Robin would watch them and see for herself that this dynamic was occurring for such a long time. And maybe she was blind to it before, but she can't be blind to it now because it is right there. We're seeing it in real time. But I think she's missing the forest for the trees. I genuinely think she is. And Janelle's like, we're expressing the ideal, and we wanted the ideal, but we didn't achieve it. We failed, and everybody has their agency. Can you imagine hearing somebody say your family failed? That hurts. That hurts. So then we jump straight into Janelle's dinner, where she asks how everybody joined polygamy. And she said, I was starting to feel the distance happening. And she knew the problems with Christine and Cody were escalating, and she really wanted to see if they could pull it together and try to get things under control. And so Robin talks about that dream that they all had of living together, but honestly, they missed that window while they were in Vegas. I know it sounds terrible, but too many of the kids had grown, gone on to moved out, had their own lives, were away, were in different states. Nobody was moving back to Coyote Pass, and by the time it would be built, you'd have been left with Robin and potentially all 5 of her children, Christine and Truly, Janelle on her own, and Mary on her own, because the kids would have gone off to live their own lives. We've seen how long it's taken to build, and we know that there is a lot of utility work that needs to be done before that's buildable. So it would be the 4 women and Cody in one giant home where resentment would grow even further because you would see all of the time in your face where he's choosing to be and where he's choosing not to be. So Robin continues to share that because Christine was so against that single family home, that's what made the idea that plural marriage was so unfair for Cody. And so Mary's like, I was super surprised when Cody said that he wasn't going to be an advocate for plural marriage anymore because it was unfair to women. Not for any other reason, but because it was unfair to women. And she's got this actually sad and serious look on her face, and then she kind of laughs and says, well, then make it fair. And Mary's eyes are red. Her expression is much more serious than we've seen in the talkbacks. And it looks like this is actually something that has either angered her to the point of near tears or made her so sad she's to the point of near tears. I don't blame her. But Christine's like, I'm glad he was saying there was an imbalance because Cody has a favorite wife. And she's like, it's where he spends all his time. It's where he's always spent all of his time. So Cody now is saying that plural marriage is fair as long as you can leave. You chose to be here, you can choose to leave. And he's yelling, and he's like, and anybody who chooses to leave, it'll break everybody's heart. It's a huge mess. And he's super accusatory when he's like, maybe you shouldn't choose to be in it if you can't be committed to it. Not really a fair take, because I don't really feel like you were super committed to it either. Mary chose to be committed to it until you forced her hand. Christine chose to be committed to it until her heart was so broken for herself and her children that she couldn't take it anymore and had to do right by them. Janelle chose to be in it until the obvious financial and time disparities and deficits on top of her children's feelings were too much and far too obvious, and Cody, the only person that really wasn't choosing this commitment anymore, was you. I really think that. I really think that. But in the clip, when Robin chooses to make points about, or chooses to make Janelle's points about feeling separate all about herself, we see present Janelle watching. And present Janelle looks like she's either trying to grind her teeth or hide an expression that should be an inside thought. I'm not sure. But on the couch, Janelle says, again, it was not her intention to single out Robin. And I agree. A lot changed when Robin came into the family. I agree with you, Janelle. Janelle is right. She says, Robin came in, we had to leave the state. So who really knows? Our lives were in upheaval. She's not wrong. But she says the family, she says she never tried to pin everything on Robin. And Christine's like, at this point, I didn't believe that Robin wanted the family anymore. She said Robin talked about wanting the family, but Christine wasn't seeing any proof of that. She really doubted Robin's sincerity in this conversation. Robin defends herself, saying she doesn't have any incidents where she's trying to get Cody to do or be something more for her. She knows what her intentions were and still are. And Mary's like, the blame would fall to one person, and that would be Cody, not Robin. But Robin and Cody have such a good relationship, it made it easy to walk away from the original three. But in the clip, Cody says they have to decide for themselves whether or not they want this, or because their religion says they have to. And that really sounds to me like he's asking them to go at this point. It does. And Cody says, no, what he's saying in between the lines here is, are you here for a relationship with me, or are you here because you're stuck? None of that's making really any easier for us to understand why he's so angry that they left. He said at that point, Christine was stuck. Cody was stuck. He didn't want to be married to Mary any longer, but he didn't want his family to break up. He wanted to try and save it. Christine shares she was already out of the religion, no longer believed any of it anymore, but she believed in the family. She figured that then they would just live plural marriage, and then when Cody was like, are you here because you want to be here? It actually scared her. She says, he doesn't want to live plural marriage anymore. We're done. That's what it sounded like to her. And I definitely see why she would feel that way, because it did sound like he was dumping at least her and Mary in that conversation. But the other thing that stood out to me a lot was that Cody was seeming to lecture the women on the religious nature of their marriages. But he had to have known that Christine had already left the faith, like she wasn't in it anymore. Or he had to be super removed from her life to think that she still was, and he never paid attention to understand that, no, she had moved past it. He's using an argument that would assume that everyone is on the same belief level, the belief system, I suppose, the level of the same belief system, and that's not the case. Whether they choose to outright confirm it or not, Christine already has said she was definitely out, and I think Mary might have been too. So we come back from the commercial, and Janelle is smiling, and she's like, it's pretty fun to look back at these old clips. Some of them are hard, but overall, they're pretty great. And this has been way better than the tell-alls. Nothing against Suki. Because, I don't know, we've gotten a lot of transparency out of these tell-alls since the Nacho incident. If you'll recall, the infamous deleted tell-all where Cody was questioned about why he basically said that Christine was chubby and unlovable in the book. Nice dude, right? So the clip we're headed into is the conversation ground rules, where Cody didn't want to participate because he said he didn't give a crap anymore. Well, okay, he was more aggressive, but this is YouTube, and I try not to say those words when I don't have to. But he also says, the family is an obstacle to my own goals. God. Which is awful. But it's probably more honest than he's been with anybody in a long time. So President Janelle said that it was probably the first time that he'd said out loud that preliminary marriage was hindering him from his own life. And she's like, what a selfish, I'm going to go with jerk. And then Robin's like, this was just after COVID. Okay, so we saw the little placard said 2020. So does she mean this was just after the pandemic started? Or is she trying to insinuate that this was just after he got COVID? Because we know he didn't get COVID until the next year. I'm not entirely certain what she's trying to say here, because she goes on to say that it made him less optimistic, which that's what she said after he had COVID. So I don't know if she's mixing up her timeline or what the story is, but something is weird. And now Cody's going on about how nobody has the same values. And Janelle's like, okay, code word, values. She's like, that just means that you don't agree with Cody and Robin. And so, you're no good anymore. Christine's like, so what are the values? In a marriage, you grow together. And if you're saying we don't have the same values, then you've grown apart. But I paused for a moment when angry Cody appeared. And he's got an injury on his cheek. That's unfortunate. But I noticed he looks a lot less puffy here. Like, there are some episodes where he looks like he's gotten some really bad lip filler, and here his face looks much more normal. And shockingly, I have to tell you, he looks so much better here than he does in the puffy clips. So whatever he's doing, I hope he stops. But he's like, the values we don't share are the one big family. We never should have been a family since these women don't like each other. You knew from the word go. I'm sorry. I can't feel sympathy. You knew from the word go. Janelle rightly points out that nothing in their doctrine says the families have to be on the same page. In fact, most plural families don't even live together. The burden falls squarely to Cody to take care of all of his families regardless. Mary's like, Cody would probably disagree, but I think he was already okay with the three of us leaving and being out of his life. I think he was just trying to emotionally push us away, she says. Robin says Cody always thought the relationships would be better, and she sticks to this whole idea that the one house conversation broke him of that idea. She also claims she was saying behind the scenes that she didn't want this anymore. If you didn't want this anymore, why are you actively trying to encourage people to stay or prevent them from leaving? I mean, you actively tried to prevent Christine from leaving by claiming that there was paperwork that she had to do. You have encouraged Mary over and over and over and over and over again not to leave. And you allegedly called and begged Janelle not to throw Cody's stuff out. So if you didn't want this anymore, why are you asking them all to stay? Also, I'm just now realizing that she didn't ask Mary to do any of those things. She didn't ask for paperwork. She didn't ask her to get a church release. None of it. That's very, I don't know what that is, but that's something I'm just now recognizing. Mary's like, it was so sad to hear somebody who was all about his family, all about his wives, just say he didn't care about any of us anymore. And Cody comes back, and he actually looks close to tears, which is surprising. And he's like, my whole mission was to make my family whole. But he proceeds to blame the women, saying they will never work together because they don't care. All right. So the rest of the clips are all the breakups. I'm going to come back and do a second video about that because, oh my gosh, there's a lot there and I have a lot of feelings about it. And I want to be able to give it the time and the sincerity that I want to give to it. Also, Freckles seems very put off by all of this today. To you too. But what do we think so far? I mean, honestly, the two biggest things the biggest things that I can take away from this were A, Mary saying she didn't actually want to do the divorce, which we kind of knew. And B, Robin claiming that the story is backwards now, that she didn't want to do this, and Cody was encouraging her. I suppose it's the insinuation that Cody was encouraging her to feel whatever way she was going to feel. I don't know. This has been a really interesting time with these talkbacks and lookbacks. And honestly, the talkbacks feel a lot more genuine than the lookbacks do in some circumstances. But there are some really interesting points to get to with the breakups. I'm going to come back and do a second video about that, like I said, so I can give it the time and the effort that it deserves. But I want to hear everything that you guys think down in the comments below. I also heard tell, allegedly, we're going to see if this works, if I say subscribe or like, allegedly the buttons light up. I don't know if that's true. I'm actually doing this so that I can go back and watch my own video and see if the subscribe button lights up. I know, it's dorky. I'm going to do it anyway. But I am so excited to be here with you guys in 2024. This is so much fun. Whether or not Freckles wants to be involved this year is going to be a mystery. Yeah, let me know what you guys have thought about this. I know this has been a little bit less exciting personality and a little bit more trying to get through my notes, but I know a lot of you are not able to see these, and you're relying on these recaps or the recaps of other creators to get you through until you can. I will tell you, YouTube TV is running a 21-day free trial, not a sponsorship. I just happened to be on YouTube and checked it out. And using that, you can get the episodes on TLC Go. It is up to you what you want to do. Otherwise, the scuttlebutt that I'm hearing is that all of these episodes will be available on Discovery Plus and Max after the second wedding episode airs. I do not know if that is true. It is just simply what I'm hearing. Take that with as many grains of salt as you'd like. So, I wish you all a very happy evening, and I will see you all soon with the second video. Bye now!